Hello and welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time and have a lovely talk about them. I have a special episode for you today. Set off that bonus node klaxon once again because I'm joined by a very, very special guest, a filmmaker and director of the upcoming, we'll talk about the subgenres it fits into a moment, film, The Blade Cuts Deeper, Gene Dolders. Gene, how you doing?
I'm great, thanks, Andy. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. We're recording midweek. It's not depressingly dark by the time you finish work anymore. It's actually not raining all the time, even here in Scotland, so there's nothing to complain about. How are you?
I'm all right. I mean, it is raining right now where I am, so it's pretty miserable. But no, I've had a really good day. Thanks. I've had a really good day.
Well, amazing. And my day's improving because now we're discussing with you. Is this your directorial debut for a feature, I believe?
Yeah. This is the first feature I've directed. I've worked on two other features as a cinematographer, but this is the first one I've directed myself.
So taking the step to, the biggest chair, right? Directing, and you wrote as well for The Blade Cuts Deeper, is that correct?
I co-wrote it with my friend Alex, who's credited as AJ Ballard on the credits.
Amazing. I mean, before we get into the film itself, a question I ask everyone who comes to talk about their work creating horror movies. What led you to the genre? Were you a fan first? Give me a little bit of your horror history. What brought you to this corner
Oh
of
yeah,
creation?
yeah. Well, growing up, my two favorite genres were horror, and also I guess this is a genre within itself, is Hong Kong action movies. They were the two types of movies I watched a lot when I was very young. But I have a brother who's 9 years older than me, so when I was younger, I would walk into his room where he was sitting with his friends, and they would all be watching lots of films I probably shouldn't have been introduced to, and I think that's how I got into horror movies. One of my first introductions to like quite extreme horror movies was when I was probably 11 years old, and I walked in on my brother with his friends, and they were watching Necromantic 2, and I sat
Oh
there and
wow.
watched it with them. Which was illegal in this country still at that time. So I think they got a bootleg copy from the Netherlands, I think, or something like that. And then the most impactful one, the one that had the most impact on me, was when I was about 12, I think I was. Um, Again, it was still banned in this country. My brother had a bootleg copy who his friend got it from the Netherlands. And I found it in the cupboard while my mum and dad were out one day, and I put it in, and it was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I
Oh
watched
wow.
it, and I'm a big fan because look, there's Leatherface
I
right there
I
on my
saw
arm.
the Leatherface tattoo just as we were talking earlier. A
So
profound
yeah, so
effect then found in that video in the cupboard. And kudos to you rolling the dice, finding a mysterious videotape in the cupboard while people were out of the house and sticking it on. That could have gone very badly.
well that could have, yeah, because I remember some of my friends coming to me and saying they found a videotape, and then it was hardcore porn that
Yeah.
in the way. So it could have gone a very different way.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly, I'm not sure what the how our friends overseas encounter this, but I feel there is an era, particularly growing up in the UK, where you could find all sorts of illicit media just in the woods, just just in the woods, in bushes near your house. This is just where you get your introduction to things that you aren't legally allowed to buy or watch at your age.
Well, that's it. I mean, and also, and I think another source, because they didn't care, obviously, was back in the early 90s as well, up to mid 90s. There'd be a lot of film fairs that would go about, and you get a lot of bootleg VHSs. So you go there, you get some good movies too, and you could they didn't care who they were selling to, they just wanted the money.
Yeah. Oh, halcyon days indeed. What a time. So
Yeah.
when did you take the jump from just enjoying horror films to thinking to yourself, you know what? I'm gonna get involved in their creation.
Well, I mean, I've been working as a camera operator and editor since the year 2000, although I did take almost a 10-year interval from doing it when I moved over to Southeast Asia and lived for a while. But I did do some work over there, but it was more teaching work. And then I came back in 2016. And then coming back, I was like, well, I want to get back into doing camera work again, but my dream had always been since I was a teenager was to make a movie. And all throughout my teens, I've written scripts for years. I've never really showed many to anybody, but I just always writing scripts, always coming up with an ideas and visualizing it in my head. And I've wanted to direct a film since I was a teenager, but I just didn't know, not necessarily that I didn't know how to do it. I didn't, one, have the confidence. I think that was a big thing. And the other one, I didn't have access to the equipment, which in the 90s, you could get video cameras, but still the grade of them wouldn't have been as that good. But now we're in an era where you can get very high quality cinema producing, cameras for such a low cost.
Yeah.
And if you've got the friends, which I have made again over the years, now the connections with people in sound department, people in camera department, actors, and all that stuff. It was just a matter of writing it with Alex. We started. I think we started writing the movie in 2021, and then we finished it about mid 2022, and then we started filming it in late 2022, and because we shot it over 3 blocks because of the financing.
Hmm.
So we split the film up into 3 parts, and then um, luckily it's all set very close together, so it didn't really matter if they were shot quite far apart. We just had to rely on the fact that hopefully actors didn't put any weight on, or,
Yeah,
anything like
I hope
that.
you enjoy this haircut you have right now because I would like to have it still in 6 months, please.
Well, no, let's talk a year. Let's
Yeah.
talk a year. But yeah, so we started filming it in July of 2022, and then technically we finished filming it in May of 2023.
So a bit of a marathon to get everything created, right? And this is I guess the challenges of making things independently, right? When you're working with the budgets that you're
Oh yeah.
raising and what you can afford to put together, because of course we all have mortgages to pay and so on.
Well, see, that's the thing. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm a father. I've got a mortgage to pay, so I have to do my other job, like doing corporate and commercial filmmaking in between to make the money. This was I think sorry, excuse me. I think I came up, I did about half the budget myself, and then I got the rest of the budget from some friends because I did try doing a Kickstarter thing, but because I don't have any, at that point, I didn't have any real presence online, no following. No one was going to give me money, but I thought I tried anyway, for the experience, but it failed. So I just knew that I had to get the money from somewhere. So some friends kindly stepped in and offered to pay for the rest of it. But as you have seen the movie, I mean, can you hazard a guess as to how much you think it cost? I'd be interested to know
Oh,
you guys.
now you're asking me.
Go
This is
ahead.
proof I'm not an economist. I've never claimed to be one, but like in all honesty, Gene, like it didn't strike me as you can tell that something is done on an independent film's budget, but at no point did I like, my goodness, this looks cheap because I think a lot of and I don't want to spoil anything, but some of the practical effects that you lean into in some of the kills that you get into, I think wonderfully put together. If you hard to say, you must have put at least 10,000 into it, right? At least, if
Oh
not
yeah,
more.
yeah. The film, the budget, the total. So if you put all the shooting days together, it was actually 12 days of filming
Hmm.
with 2 days of pickups that we ended up doing later on after we did the first assembly because we knew we kind of needed a couple of extra shots here and there for some scenes. So with all that in mind, I know it was spread over a period of time, but there was an actual 14 days of filming. So it was £14,000 altogether. So it basically works out a grand a day.
Yeah. Oh, incredible. And like you clearly, I think this is what I love and appreciate so much about independent filmmaking as well, is that you are making every single pound and penny that you have in that budget count. Like, you look at Hollywood productions, we'll be talking about one next time we film an episode, and even the best of them, for a normal person, these are insane volumes of money, and some of them will be done just for the paperwork and the admin and the catering and the all sorts of things, things that you have to spend money on. But what I love whenever I speak to independent filmmakers is the work and the extra blood and sweat that goes in to make your money go as far as it can to actually make something that you can put up on screen.
Oh, that's it. I mean, at the end, what I did was to prepare myself for directing my first feature. I made 2 short films, and the two short films taught me three very important things. The first short film I made taught me how to schedule a shoot, and which is really important because you can get as much money out of your shooting days as possible. Then it also taught me like who I should and shouldn't have on set at certain days, to help keep the money down. And then the third thing, sorry, that I learned, which was on the second short, because the second short was a lot of practical effects, was how to work with special makeup effects artists. Because when I made that short film, it was shot in 2 days, and I only gave them half a day to do, I think, what was it, 3 kills, which wasn't enough, and it shows. So I knew when I came to this movie, I'm like, okay, well, we obviously have to film a lot of dialogue scenes, but we can get through them quite quickly if the actors know the dialogue, and I'm very prepared with the shot lists and everything that we need to do, and the blocking's all done, the lighting's all done. We know all that in advance. So I gave the practical effects artists a lot more time to do it this time, and then that's what really paid off with it, because there's I think in the movie there's probably a kill every, if you average it out, every 15 minutes. And then obviously the first one is a very big one, in
Yeah.
the house. And then slightly smaller, then a bit bigger again. So, but yeah, it all just takes time and planning. And that's where the kind of money went, was in the planning more than anything.
Well, I can tell you the things that you spent money on, and I again, especially for an independent film, I don't want to spoil anything, but the scene you just alluded to in the house, I was enjoying myself anyway. I was watching away, but genuinely very happy to share with you. I sat forward when that scene came, when that scene in that house came, because I was genuinely not expecting you to go as hard and as focused on the events as you did. And incredible work. Like whoever was working on that shot did, from the edit to the practical effects to everything. I think it came together wonderfully. Such good stuff.
Well, that if you obviously, as you've seen the film, you'll notice that there's a lot of POV shots from the killer. So that
Hmm.
particular kill you're talking about is the from the POV of the killer as he's stabbing away. So that's actually, we only had one go at that kill because that we had to do a cast of the actress's face, and we only had enough money to do one. And when it came time to do the kill, I thought I can't get the actor who's playing the killer to do it, because if he messes it up, I'm going to get angry with him, and that's not fair on him.
Yeah.
So I put the killer's jacket on and the gloves in, and I did it myself, thinking, well, if I mess it up, I can only be angry with myself then, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
So
because
that
you
ended
can
up
take that
keeping
on
me.
you. Like you took responsibility for it, and if
Yeah,
it didn't come out
exactly.
right, then that's on you. That's a very fair way to put these things together. But you know what? And guess what? Spoilers for the future IMDb trivia page. That is going straight on there when the film comes out. In this shot, did you know that actually the director was filming it themselves? Ah,
Well,
brilliant. So let's talk a little bit about the film. So the blade cuts deeper. We talked about fitting it into genres. For me, watching it without the official write-up there, I saw elements of thriller. I saw definite definite slasher vibes in there. And then discussing with yourself as well, you mentioned a large sort of Giallo inspiration that you were drawn to as well. Um, Before we talk about the ins and outs and everything, though, maybe tell us overall a little synopsis of the Blade Cuts Deeper. How would you pitch it if you were
okay,
trailering
yeah,
this?
no, that's cool. Okay, so the Blake Deeper is about a TV host called John Abbott, and he in the movie we have a fake true crime TV show, and like every fake true crime TV show, obviously they have reenactment sections. Now, this particular show is called Lights, Camera, Kill, and it's not known for being very nice when it comes to the reenactments. They're quite Laura that they're just doing it for the ratings, and they're not respectful at all to the victims. And so, one episode that gets screened, a family member of one of the victims who's portrayed in the particular episode is not very happy and decides to go around picking off the cast and crew of the TV show one by one.
Wonderful. The pitch that certainly got myself interested as soon as we knew that this was coming out when we spoke to mutual friend guy was telling us about it, and we said, "You've got to come and get Gene on to talk about it." He told us a little bit about it, and I thought, right, this sounds exciting. And I think particularly where we are, I think horror is perhaps at its best as a storytelling medium when it is reflecting what we have in society. And right now we know more so than ever, but particularly the last, what, 5, 10 years, cultural obsession with true crime and the speed at which and the volume of which we get true crime documentaries
Yeah.
is through the roof. I mean, at time of recording, you only have to flick through your Netflix queue. Some of the most talked about TV programs for the last few years have been dramatic reenactments of the lives and trials of famous serial killers. ITV dramas are making, a living for several people's careers out of these as well. And then we have from the actual discussion pieces to countless. I would not dare to guess how many true crime podcasts there are now. So it's a huge element. So a really good one to tap into. Is there any particular one that you were really inspired by?
No, the idea originally was to make somewhat of a comment on content creation. Not that I'm against it, but that there was just a lot of it to the point where people were churning it out so much that they weren't really looking at the quality, and not so much the quality of the production, but really the quality of how that content, what they put in it, might affect others. And then we came up with an idea for a true crime show simply because I wanted to shoot a reenactment section for a true crime show. So we just made it that because I thought it would be fun to do.
Yeah, and especially with the true crime reenaction, I'm imagining when this comes out, your phone will be ringing off the hook from the good folks that did the Crime Watch reconstructions, which I don't know about you guys, Gene. Like, looking at this, when we talk about the reconstruction sections, now I've reflected on this. Probably one of my own entries to horror. Is this true of you growing up as well? Would you watch a Crime Watch reenactment go
Oh
as a
yeah, yeah,
kid?
yeah. Oh yeah, I used to watch Crime Watch as a kid. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I am also a big fan of true crime stuff. I don't watch it as much as I used to simply because I don't have the time. But at some point, I was on that whole wave of, just consume lots of true crime stuff, whether it was on Netflix or I don't know, Prime or wherever it was. I'm really into it because I've always, since I was a young kid, because I liked horror, was always delving into reading books about serial killers and things like that. Anyway, so I was always very interested in it.
Yeah. And it's a great comment you make about the quality of the content. I think particularly with the race to get things as cutting edge and contemporary as possible in the true crime space, there is, when you lose that quality control, that risk of you treating something less respectfully when the family and friends of those people who have been killed in these real crime events are still very much alive and grieving those things, right? It's not like if you look at, hey, there is a famous serial killer and this happened in the 1960s, and many, many years have passed since then. But
Yeah.
like now, like even programs that I'm not going to tar them with saying that this is people that treat it disrespectfully. But I'll listen to an episode of They Walk Among Us or something, and it will be a crime that has only very recently gone to trial, because they're following events as they are being concluded, and as there is an end point to that story, which can mean some very recent stuff. So you're right, like that almost duty of care and what you think to the other people is a very real point, and also I think a real nice link to the kind of motives you get from your Giallo killers as well, right?
Oh,
In a
oh
lot
no,
of
completely. Yeah, yeah, completely. I mean, that's it's everything gets set up. I mean, also, I'm not sure if you noticed this. I can't actually say really because it'll spoil things from the movie. But most of the kills line up with how they're related to the episode. So, if you think of the person that gets their throat done and their
Mhm.
job, I mean, it's a stupid joke, but they're an editor and they get sliced over, they slice things, but it's just little stupid things like that inside that can make it a bit more fun for me and
I
build a bit of comments. But I think one of the main problems is it's not just the fact that the quality's bad. It's the fact that people are rushing out stuff so quickly. Is that they don't have time to quality check a lot of stuff and with facts. And I've only really come across one YouTube true crime show, not show, one YouTube like true crime channel. I think it's called Dreading, and they seem to fact check very well. And if they will omit things and will say they have if they haven't been fully fact checked yet because so everything's so there are people out there who have a lot of respect for what's going on, simply want to just report the facts, but there are also a lot of people out there, and this is not just for true crime, this is for lots of different things. I even see it when my son's watching kids, one the channels that set up for kids is just they're telling stuff to kids that they obviously haven't fact checked themselves, and then kids are watching this and thinking, oh, that's an actual fact. And I'm talking about like an educational fact, but they haven't fact checked themselves, and kids are going off and learning these things. So that it's across all industries, I think.
Yeah, that's an amazing point. Like pointing out, like there is the 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 focus on pace and speed and getting these things out, and the fact, I guess, that now we are operating in a time where, and for many reasons, this is a good thing for a lot of places. There is no longer that gatekeeping with YouTube, with podcasting, with lots of other these platforms. As long as you've got the capabilities to record something, you don't have to be the BBC to put something out, right? Anyone can within reason produce something, and that can sometimes come at a loss of quality or the rigor that is expected of larger organizations, right? Again, by and large, a very positive thing because it doesn't mean that, well, it's okay. I happen to have went to school with the Director General of the BBC, so I can absolutely get this commission to be on television. It means that you
Yes,
can,
yeah,
just if you have a story to tell, you can put it out. But yeah, the cost of that is that you are potentially at risk if there are people that put things out that are not taking those steps. So talk to me a little bit about making the film and stepping into your first feature. We talked a little bit about what you learned and the scheduling. Tell me how it was on set. It looks like you managed to have some fun despite all the hard work.
yeah. Well, no, I mean the first block of shooting was the TV show Lights Camera Kill. So that was just a 2 day shoot where we shot the reenactment section of this fake TV show. That was a lot of fun, especially the shootout at the end where the guy gets killed by the cops, because I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna go full John Woo on this. We'll shoot it at a really
Yeah.
high frame rate and then we'll slow it down and just have cops. I think he gets shot 16 times, which is ridiculous. The police obviously would never do that. That's completely ridiculous. But it was just fun to do. So it was good because a lot of the people who worked on the movie I'd worked with before on the two short films that I directed, but then I'd also worked on them on other people's short films that I was the cinematographer on. So a lot of the people there, I think, out of the whole cast and crew, of which altogether over those 14 days, cast and crew wise, there probably was about 60 altogether. There may have only been, gosh, 7 or 8 that I'd never worked with before. So I
Oh
already
wow.
had a good rapport with some of them, and my cameraman Paul and my soundman John. We've worked with each other so many times now that I can just kind of make a hand movement and they know exactly what I want from them. So it speed things up really quickly, and then we can relax a little bit on set and have a bit of fun. So all in all, it was a really good experience. It really was.
Wow. And when it comes to casting, how did you approach that? Were there actors that you already knew, or did you have to do any open casting for anybody?
Right, so John Tuitt plays the main character of John Abbott. I first worked with him on a short film called Sidelines, where I was working as the gaffer, and I just met him there. And then after that, I cast him in my second short film, so I already knew him, and I already knew what he was capable of, what we could, what I could get out of him for the film. Kristen, who plays Olivia, I'd never worked with her before. She was in my movie. I just put out a casting call, and quite a few people responded, a lot more than I thought, actually, especially because I wanted to get people as much as I could from the northwest of England, because that's where
Mhm.
it's set. I mean, it's meant to be set in Liverpool, but it was basically whoever was available and could do it around the northwest. Kristen, actually, funnily enough, she's from Norway, but she lives in Liverpool now. So she came along, and I met her, and sometimes you just get a good feeling from people from talking to them. And I've seen a show reel. I'd seen what she could do, so I knew she could do that. Um, James, who's in it, who plays the editor in the movie, his name's James Podmore. He is I like to call him my Robert De Niro. He's been in
Yeah.
everything I've ever directed. He's always in everything that I do. He is actually, so the guy who plays the editor, in the end of the movie, he's
Yep.
also the guy who plays the sniper at the beginning, and also the person in the park who's with the
Oh wow.
so he's got three parts in the movie.
Multi-talented.
Multi-talented, which is explained in the film. So a lot of them I just worked with on other short films, whether it was a couple that I directed or other ones that I'd worked on as a cinematographer or a gaffer, and I just start talking to them on set. And I always, when I'm working on somebody else's films, I'm always watching not only the cast, also the crew to see, oh yeah, they're really good at their job, and I get on with them. And I always prioritize, do I like them as a person? And obviously they need to be good at what they do, but I always prioritize, like, do I essentially get on with them? Would I spend 10 days straight with them for like 16 hours a day and not want to kill them? I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll work with them then. That's
It's
cool.
surprising how underrated that is. I think particularly in independent spaces, I've seen it in films, I've seen it in my own work in things like audio and comics and so on as well. Like being great is one thing, and obviously it's incredibly important at being good at what you're being hired to do or what people want to collaborate with you to do. But it also goes a very, very long way to be a nice person and easy to work with and easy to spend that time with, whether you're spending
Oh yeah.
many hours on Zoom calls with them or you're going back and forth on, I mean, the same with you when you work with a writing partner, writing with someone who you get it. And, if you give each other a note, the person isn't going to be, oh, I'm offended you've saying my work is bad. It's like people who are easy to work with and are flexible and open to
Yeah.
working with you rather than against you. It is probably the most valuable trait you can have, in my opinion.
Oh no, I completely agree. I mean, like Alex, who co-wrote the movie with me. I mean, we've been friends for a long time anyway. We actually went to high school together. He was a couple of years older than me, but we've known each other, sorry, excuse me, for a long time. And I was usually the one because he would write something, then it would come. This is the way I do when I know I'm going to direct something and I'm looking at the script. As I'm reading it, as I'm reading the script, if I'm not visualizing it as soon as I read the action, then I know it has to change because I know I can't get it up on the screen. So that's when I make comments like, well, we need to make changes here. I think this is the idea. And I send it back to Alex and he might tweak it. And then I might write something and he might say, oh, we need to tweak this. But then I might justify it saying, oh, well, if we do it that way, I can't visualize it in my head. And over time, maybe I can figure it out. But the way I look at it as a director is if I'm making a script and I'm reading a script, if I can't visualize that straight away, I should have to change it because I shouldn't have to force myself to go and visualize it a different way because
Yeah.
that means it's just not going to work for me. I mean, that's not the same for every director, but that's just how I work and how I see things.
And that makes sense as well. Like, because even if, especially in that first review, like in the example you gave, yes, maybe it needs to be tweaked and done a little bit a different way. Maybe it's just a point where the writing team or the directing team or whoever needs to get together and say, does it need to be expressed differently on the page so I can understand how it be visualized or I can clarify how it be visualized? All these things make it a little bit better because, the alternative is that if it's not particularly clear on the page, which with the exception of your time, it is free to get it down on that bit. If you can't interpret it in the way that it is written and the way as maybe someone else intended, and then you spend time and effectively money because you've run film and you've taken the time of all the people to get it together and you've set up a shot and all those things. Harder to change those things afterwards, right? Certainly more expensive to change those things afterwards than discussing
Yeah.
in that planning phase.
I mean, the thing is, though, the thing you have to realize, especially with a budget this low and in low budget films in general, it's all well and good that I've just said that to you, but then again, then you go through the process of, okay, now I'm finding locations. You get to, oh, well, that's not exactly the location I want, but maybe it's all we can afford, or maybe it's all that's available at that time. And I'm looking at the script thinking, well, I've got this piece of action here. It's not going to fit into this location, so now I do have to rewrite it to fit the location. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles essentially because you're working on a budget. But to initially, you want to be really comfortable with the script right at the beginning and have a good solid idea in your head, and then I mean, even on big budget stuff, you'd be doing that anyway. But you're going to have to adapt to the situations that you get into. But it's good to have that solid blueprint essentially right at the beginning.
Yeah. And you mentioned locations. How did you go about scouting for yours where you filmed? I know that you have most of the body of the film is based in one location, the studio where they're editing together,
Yeah,
right? So how did you find
which is
these
actually a
locations?
mall. That's
Is
actually a
it?
mall. The studio, yeah, it is. So there's a mall. I don't know if I can say the name because they because the bits when there were parts of the mall that we shot in, but then they asked us not to show signs of saying it was the mall. But then again, obviously, yeah, I'm not going to say it just in case, but because I'll have to check the contract that we signed with them. But we did a bunch of filming in this mall, and then later on, we went through post production and had to paint out a few of the signs that had the logo and stuff on it. But they were really kind to us. This mall was open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. at night. Then it closed from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And for a very, very low fee of £150 a day, which was really kind of them, they let me, all the cast and crew come in at 6 p.m. every night and film all the way through till 6 a.m. every morning and just gave us the run of the entire mall. And what they did was they showed me a bunch of shops that were empty and we just kind of we just did some second set decoration. Now, obviously, you'll know from watching the movie, the set decoration is very minimal there, but that's explained in the movie that they've just moved into these new premises,
Yeah.
so they don't have. That's how we got around that. Obviously, 'cause that's what you do in low budget filmmaking.
Yeah, you're
You
right
put extra
around it.
dialogue into the movie. Yeah, that's what you do. But yeah, they just. It was mad. Yeah, they had one secure. It's a massive mall. I mean, a massive mall with like 7,000 car park spaces. That's how big the mall is. And they had one security guard who just sat in the booth at nighttime with all the monitors and he just I go there at 6 p.m. He'd just hand over the big round keys with all the keys on, and he'd be like, "Okay, go do your filming." I'm like, "All right, thanks."
Go nuts. Bring me a cup of tea later if you're having one.
But that's half the movie set there. So the opening actually of the movie with the TV show in the car park that is the mall as well. That's in the just in the car park of the mall. And then the cinema was I have a friend who runs a cinema in Southport, which is a town close to where I live. And he runs a community cinema, so paid him some money, not very much, so he's very kind to give it to us a very small amount, and we shot in there for one day. And then the house where Olivia lives, that's actually my house. So my house is in the movie because you've got to use what you've got.
Exactly.
Um, all the
I hope you
exteriors
paid yourself a little bit, Gene, as well for your for
I
your...
no, I should have paid my wife because she's the one that had to put up with us being here till like 2 o'clock in the morning filming every day. Um,
We should check.
and
I mean, I can ask Ben to edit that if she's likely to listen to this and say, "Yeah, actually, you should have."
No, no, it's okay, it's fine. I'm not gonna say. And all the exterior scenes on roads, they were done by the process of stealing shots. I'm sure you probably know what that is, but for people that don't know, that basically just means you roll up to a location, you just start filming without a permit, and which is very common in low budget filmmaking because permits for roads can be in the thousands. You
Yeah,
just can't afford it. There was actually one night there's a bit in the film um, where the character of Olivia gets dropped off by Abbott and she has to walk home. So that road we shot on that road for 2 nights. The first night was all good. Second night we came back and about 2 hours into the filming, the police showed up, two police officers in a car. I just walked up to them and said, they asked, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, we were filming here last night. We're just getting a few more shots. And I just thought, I'll be cocky. Do you want to stay and watch this film? And they just thought about it. They went, oh no, we've got our rounds to do. Just take care and and be careful. And
yeah,
because most this sounds bad, but the average police officer probably doesn't know much about the rules about filming and location filming and stuff like that. And it's not an ethical thing to do. But again, you're making a low budget movie. You just got to go and do it.
and also I think I get it. They have safety to worry about, but if you're being careful and you're doing things correctly, to be honest, like that's a bit of bureaucracy that's probably not doing very much for anybody that you have to have quite so many permits and so on.
Well, I mean, yeah, we weren't. I mean, we weren't far. It's a back road in the middle of nowhere. It's actually the
Yeah,
town where I just on the outskirts of the town I grew up in. That's why I knew the road, and that's why I picked that road because I knew it would be no one would be there, for those nights. So it was, it was safe. We weren't bothering anybody. We weren't loud even when we
exactly.
were filming. So, but you just, yeah, it's not the best thing to do, but you got to do it. And then
Yeah.
I think that's all the locations. Yeah, and then the mall was just, the whole last half of the movie is set in the mall. But we tried to make it look like a brand new production company. They've just moved in. They don't have all the furniture yet and all that kind of stuff, which some of that dialogue was in the movie originally, but when I found when we got the location, I quickly went back with Alex and we just started adding in lines about oh, the furniture's gonna get delivered soon or
Yeah,
whatever
we've
it is,
only just
those kind of
moved
things.
in. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it
yeah.
works. I think it works very well, and again, it makes the most of the locations you have, and it's also just very sort of organic discussion as well. I mean, so we've covered it. I think if people are thinking about the blade cuts deeper, we've talked the premise. I can go on as someone who's seen it and say, hey, you're going to get some mystery. You're going to get some laughs. There is some good, funny dialogue that you put in there as well. You get some great, like, over the top performances in places. You get some wonderful practical kills as well. I'd recommend you check it out, which leads me to my question, of course, as the dogs come running downstairs barking. Um, where could people go about following the news? Where should they watch out for its screening? Do you have any concrete plans?
Well, there's two screenings, official screenings at the moment. Are this Sunday on March the 2nd? Yeah, March the 2nd, which is this Sunday. It's the I guess what it technically I guess you could say it's the world premiere. It's the first official screening anywhere. It's going to be at the Evansville Horror Con, which is in Evansville in Indiana in the US. Then the next screening we have confirmed is April the 13th at Horrorwood 2, which is in Haywood, which is it's just north of Manchester in the UK. And then I've just received an email today that it's going to be screened at a cinema in Lee, which is also in the northwest of England, called the Lee Film Factory. So that looks like it's going to happen on April the 16th. And I'm waiting back to hear from two other horror conventions in the US. One in, I think you pronounce it Louisville or Louisville. I don't actually know how you pronounce it. And then another one is in Nashville. We've got a potential screening in Cardiff, but that's not confirmed yet, and a couple of others. But yeah, for now, March the 2nd, Evansville Horror Con in Indiana in the US. And then the next one will be April the 13th at Horrorwood 2, which is in Haywood, just outside of Manchester.
Amazing. And are you getting to go to any of the US ones yourself? Have you got that planned for the year?
No, well, actually, I can't go to the one this Sunday because I'm shooting a short film this Sunday with Guy. So, so, uh,
Oh
so,
wow.
so I'm filming this weekend, and I wouldn't. It's not something I would go to anyway right now for this. I'll obviously be going to the one at Horrorwood 2 in Haywood, North Manchester, because that's only about a 40-minute drive from where I live. Because I've told them I'll do a Q&A there after the movie, and then the one that's going to be coming up in Lee, I'll do an intro and possibly a Q&A there as well. So I'll get to as many as I can that are in the UK, and if the opportunity arises, I'll definitely go over to the US. But right now, it was a bit too short notice, and also I'd booked in to do a short film, to be a cinematographer on a short film this weekend.
Got to get those bills paid. I tell you what, Gene, that sounds great. If we, what we'll do is we'll gather all of this for the show notes. I say we, good old Ben. We'll gather lots of this for the show notes. I think particularly for the upcoming screenings, if there are tickets available, we will share them on the socials. We will share when things are going
Oh,
live in
great!
case anyone wants to go and catch those. Um, I know one person in Indiana. I'm going to text him when I finish this conversation and see if he's free on Sunday.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool. Okay.
and see if he can go and see if he can make it. I don't know if he's much of a cinema person, but he can make an exception. Um, Brilliant. So, if people are following you for more news, social media is not what it used to be. Where is the best place to follow you if they want to keep up with the news?
I guess, well, the two best places would be the Blade Cuts Deep has its own Facebook page, which has all the information on. So you just go on Facebook and type in the Blade Cuts Deeper, you'll find that really easily. And then on Instagram, you can follow me at G Dolders. And then I post all the stuff on there about all the upcoming screenings and all the information. I post sometimes I'm posting like stills from the movie or some BTS stuff occasionally for the film as well to promote it. So they're probably the two best places to go. Yeah, they would be the two. I mean, there are more, but there's no point flooding people with
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
get on those main two, and on either of those platforms, then
Oh, I tell you what.
find them
Sorry,
there.
one other thing they could go on if they want this. The movie actually has an official website, so it's thebladecutsdeeper.com. If you're interested, you can go there. You can sign up for the newsletter, and then you'll get all the information sent directly to you about any possible screenings that are going to happen and all the other things. Because we're planning to do a limited run of the Blade Cuts Deeper on VHS. So if people are interested in wanting to get a VHS tape of the movie, I mean like a proper one, like old school VHS with a all cover. We might be shooting a very special introduction for the movie just for the VHS with an actor that I'm working with this weekend, but I haven't spoken to him about it yet, so I shouldn't. I can't say he's going to do it, but I'm hoping he will because I'm working with him this weekend. But yeah, and
Nice.
yeah. So we're doing a VHS, and we're currently talking to distributors and things about getting it out to other parts of the other countries and other parts of the world. So that the newsletter would be a good place to sign up to because you can get the information sent straight to you then.
Wonderful. And if you keep us posted, Gene, we will keep our listeners posted as well. Whenever we hear news, we will, of course, share that as well with everybody. Um, this has been brilliant. We've talked about the Blade Cuts Deeper, but I cannot let you get away without some of our wonderful, we have a podcast called the Horror Hangout here. So we need to talk about what your ideal horror watching and hanging out situation is. So as a film fan, when you're going to enjoy a horror movie, especially in the year of our Lord 2025, are you more comfortable watching a movie still in the cinema, or do you prefer to be in your own space at home when you're watching a horror movie?
Oh no, it will always be the cinema. That will always be the case. It's just the fact that being a father and time limits you to go to the cinema not as much as I used to. But like today, I went to see The Monkey, and that was cool. I've only been in the cinema about 5 times altogether this year. Four of them were for horror movies. One was for I took my son to see the movie Dogman because he's a big fan of the Dogman comics. So it will always be the cinema. That will always be my first port of call. I don't want to say I'm not a big fan of streaming services because obviously my movie's going to end up on there at some point, so it's not a very good thing to say. But I really do wish it was still kind of like when I was growing up, where it would come out in the cinema, then you had to wait 6 months, and instead of it going to VHS now, you have to wait 6 months and it goes to streaming because that would hopefully drive more people back to the cinema. Because at some point it's gonna be it's going to be a bit of a rare occurrence, people going to the cinema now, which is unfortunate. I do like watching movies at home because obviously you can sit down, you could have a drink as well while you're doing it. You don't have to drive anywhere, but still, there's nothing better than watching a movie on a massive screen with an amazing sound system.
Yeah, very, very true. So when you're having this watching experience, are you a purist? Are you full concentrating on the screen, or or are you going to go snacks? And if so, what snacks are you taking in there to a cinema screening?
Oh no, well, I would never leave the cinema while the movie's on unless I have to go to the toilet. I mean, that's
Yeah,
an emergency. But apart from that, no, I would never leave to go get food. I would always take some food in with
yeah.
me.
So you're taking in, but what's your choice going to be?
Well, I went to cinema today, and I took, I took a ham sandwich with me.
Not wrong with taking a ham sandwich in. I thought I was breaking the law the other day. Our local cinema does beers. First time I had a beer in the cinema. Tell you what, felt like I was James Dean. If I'd have been wearing a leather jacket, it would have been fitting. It was great. But yeah, nothing wrong with a ham sandwich. Bit of mustard on there.
Well, it was a ham sandwich, a can of Coke, and a Cocoa Pop snack bar. That's what I had for my cinema snack.
Oh, a Tesco meal deal bonanza over there.
Well, it wasn't even from Tesco. It was all homemade as well. Well, the sandwich
Oh,
was anyway. But yeah, I could have just gone to Tesco's. The old me, when I was younger, would have been go to the cinema, grab a hot dog, a whole big thing of popcorn, and a massive
yeah.
drink, and eat all that. But unfortunately, as I'm getting older, I just, you pack on the pounds really, really easily now, so I can't do that anymore.
I'll tell you what, a big popcorn take you 3 days to recover from. Get a hangover from that
Yeah,
these
that's true.
days.
That's true. That's
All right.
true.
And our final question, and possibly the most important. especially as a horror fan and horror creator. I'm going to put it to you. Let's say you're having some people over. You're going to have a horror movie night. They're coming around to your house. Let's say it's a mixed crowd, so you haven't got to cater for nan or kids or anything like that, but it's a mixed crowd, so generalist film fans. No, you haven't got you're not all horror elites or anything like that. You're in charge of picking the film, Gene. What are you sticking on for your
Oh,
crowd of
Nightmare
friends
City.
coming over?
They're watching Nightmare City. I don't care who they are and what they do. Yeah, they're watching Nightmare City. I mean, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is what I consider to be the best horror movie ever made, but my favorite horror movie is Nightmare City. It is the ultimate action adventure horror movie, in my opinion. It doesn't get any better than that, and I will watch that every day of the year if I could. It's fantastic.
And little peek behind the curtain, everyone. Ben and I have been chatting to Gene. He's going to come and join us for an episode, a full episode in the coming weeks. Where we're going to talk about Nightmare City. So strap in. And then maybe if we do this in a few weeks, Gene, when we get round to scheduling for Nightmare City, we can talk about how your world premiere's gone and how the audiences have taken to the Blade Cuts Deeper. We'll look forward to a real time update.
Yeah, no, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, I will do. I will do. Thank you very much for having me on your show today. And I really do look forward to looking to Nightmare City, which you're probably going to you'd be stuck with me for about 4 hours talking about that movie.
So we've done worse than 4 hours, Gene. You're no brother. Amazing. Well, in that case, I will leave you to get on with your evening. I will go peek behind the curtain, everyone, and wolf some dinner in 5 minutes before I record our episode of The Monkey with Ben. And we will see you all next time. But for now, I will say thank you, everyone, to listening. Thank you to Gene for joining me, of course. Thank you to Acast for hosting the show. Thank you for Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks to our mates over on Rusty Quill for keeping good company with us. And I will see you all next time. Bye for now, everybody.